panicking Prime Minister is desperate to save his carbon tax, especially on heat. And he started by giving a temporary pause to some people in a region where he was plummeting in the polls and his caucus was revolting. But then he found that the entire country was in revolt and he needed a new coalition partner to save him from my common sense confidence vote to take the tax off the heat. He got that support from the Bloc Quebecois. We now learn that he has been in discussions with the Bloc to help him stay in power for 2 years. What did he promise the separatists for them to enter into this costly carbon tax coalition?
Mr. Speaker, contrary to the divisive rhetoric that the Leader of the Opposition is putting forward, the measures we announced on transitioning people on oil to heat pumps apply right across the country. The doubling of the rural top-up right across the country. We're going to continue to work with Canadians to phase out home heating oil, which is dirtier and more expensive. And I want to recognize that we are willing to work with anyone in this House who will step up in the fight against climate change. And I thank the Leader of the Bloc Quebecois for continuing to be firm on building a better future for all our kids, on fighting for climate change, against climate change on this and in other occasions. I welcome all parliamentarians to stand up in the fight against climate change.
Now he's thanking the separatists for helping him save his carbon tax and support his plan to quadruple the tax on heat, gas, and groceries. This Prime Minister is playing a very dangerous game. First, he divided Canadians by giving a temporary pause to some people in a region where he was plummeting in the polls and his caucus was revolting. When all Canadians then revolted against this divisive plan, he's turned to the separatists who say that they are going to keep him in power for 2 years and that the Leader of the Bloc has had a call with the Prime Minister to do it. In the interest of transparency, will the Prime Minister reveal what he promised the separatists for them to join in this costly carbon tax coalition?
Mr. Speaker, the level of divisiveness in the rhetoric of the Leader of the Opposition is truly unfortunate. Mr. Speaker, the vast majority of Canadians, like the vast majority of members in this House of Commons, recognize that climate change is real, recognize we need to continue to step up in the fight against climate change, not just for the well-being of the planet and future generations, but for families' bottom lines, for families' jobs and careers as well, and we will continue to do that. As members of this party know, of the House of Commons know, I exchange regularly with leaders of different political parties. I haven't spoken recently with the Leader of the Bloc except on the issue of the Middle East, but I'm always open to talking to any party leader that wants to talk about fighting climate change.
He tried to divide and distract from the fact that Canadians, after 8 years of his government, cannot eat, heat, or house themselves. But in a strange way, he united all Canadians at the Premier's conference who all agree, all 10 of them unanimously disagree that the Prime Minister's approach to take the tax off temporarily for only some. They said that this federal carbon tax policy treats Canadians differently and they expect a change. Will the Prime Minister pull together all the premiers in an emergency carbon tax conference so that we can take the tax off and keep the heat on?
Mr. Speaker, the measures we announced a couple of weeks ago help any Canadian everywhere across the country to get off home heating oil towards using a heat pump, which is cleaner, less expensive, and better for our future. These are things that we've done right across the country. Only the Conservatives would think that taking serious action on climate change and supporting Canadians right across the country with affordability measures would be divisive. Well, it is divisive if you think that climate change is fake. But for everybody else other than the Conservative Party, we know that we can come together to fight climate change.
Canadians know that the only thing fake is this Prime Minister. And Mr. Speaker, today the NDP flip-flopped on its flip-flop. First, they voted 16 times in favor of the carbon tax on home heat. Then they voted to quadruple the tax. Then yesterday, they panicked and flip-flopped and voted for my plan to take the tax off home heating, admitting that they were wrong all along. And now today, they said they're in favor of the tax on home heat by refusing my amendment. So will the Prime Minister tell us at 2:26 p.m. what is the NDP position on the carbon tax right now?
Speaker, what is clear is that the Conservatives are all ready to try and divide Canadians one against the other in any possible way they can, when the reality is the only division around climate change is that Conservative politicians still doubt whether it's real or not, and certainly don't think we should be doing anything to fight climate change. However, everybody else across the country, in all different parties, knows that it's a real issue that we're going to continue to step up and fight, unlike the Conservatives that continue to look to divide and hide from the reality of climate change.
Hear, hear.